Thank you. Wow. Welcome to this beautiful experience of co-creation. And if you read my email that I sent out earlier this week, you'll see that I just summed up the entire talk in those few words. Whether this is about, I call it, the potter's wheel is always turning, which relates to the potential for creation is always there. It's just everything. It's just, that's how I currently, of course, it's been changing every day as I think about this. Creation is one way of thinking of God or all that is. I don't like the word God because people tend to think of it as somebody who's doing something up there or around here. And whereas the potter's wheel is just, it's creation, it's the potential for creation going constantly. And it's sort of like, and there are many analogies, but fire, you could say a fire hose, just that flow of water is like, okay, you get to hold the end of the hose, although if you've ever tried that, it takes more than one person to do that. So that brings us to co-creative. Anyway, the fire hose is sort of just blasting, and who knows what you're going to do with it, whether you're going to put out a fire or control a crowd. But a potter's wheel is nice and gentle. And just to give you, I'm sure you all have a clue what I'm talking about when I say a potter's wheel, but I'm going to play a little video in the background, share this as I talk for a few minutes here. Oh yeah, make it spin, yay. So, yeah, and some of us, you know, if we've been brought up in certain backgrounds or at some points in our lives, probably feel like that lump of clay, and we have no control over what we're being turned into, what's happening to us every minute of every day. It's just life is coming at us. God's hands are shaping our every action. It's all either, if not predetermined, it's determined by somebody else. And that's rather, I find, disempowering. So the way I look at this is more like I said, the wheel is the continuous flow of creative potential that is always there. It's always flowing, sometimes different speeds. And, you know, whether the clay is our life or it's the life that we're creating and viewing outside, it is continuously changing by our hands or by those around us. And so there's creation involved. And I had started planning this talk thinking that, you know, it's not about experience, it's not about taking in experience, it's about, you know, who we really are as a spirit. Well, actually, we're both. We can perceive, experience, feel, but the other half of our ability, as our innate ability as a spiritual being, is to create, to generate, to shape the clay on the wheel. And the more I think about this and read, the more clear it is that, you know, it takes both sides. You know, we can think that all we are is experiencing, taking in information. Once, back in high school, we were asked to make a diagram of our life. And I remember I just drew this arrow with a lot of lines coming into it. And then I realized, well, occasionally I'll have a line coming out of my arrow of life, so because I can have some influence outside of me. But it's really balanced, because even if you think you're not having an impact on those you're around you and your surroundings, you are. Just by being there, just by paying attention to what you pay attention to, that changes your reality, and it changes the reality of everything, everyone that you are looking at, everyone that you are listening to. it is a co-creation continuously. Even, looking at internal, like feelings of happiness or sadness. We feel those, but is that us? No, that's a feeling that we can experience, but I'm willing to bet, just like, Janet's wonderful meditation about creativity, you can create. Sometimes it takes somebody to remind us of that, but you can create feelings inside yourself. If you choose to think about a certain event in your past that was happy or something you're looking forward to, you can create happiness and anticipation or joy. And likewise, obviously, you can focus on different things, losses or failures, things that are perceived as failures, and generate that. That's a creative process, and we all have it. Some of my research for this talk was, about creative genius, but we are all genius. Anybody who, as a spiritual being, you have the genius of creativity in whatever realms or facets of life that you take on. You are creating, and you are a genius at it in your own life. Interestingly, this also gets into the whole thing of oneness versus separation, because in order to perceive something or to create something, there has to be separation. If you are the pot, you cannot shape the pot. If I want to create something outside of me, if I want to fix my garage floor, as I've been doing, play with concrete. Let's stop the share. Come back here for a few minutes, and then I'll share another video soon. Where was I? So there's creation outside of us, building a house, making a painting, dancing, any sort of creation that is shared with the outside world. That's creation, but it involves separation, us versus the creation. But similarly, if we are perceiving something, we have to have separation. There's no perception of something if it's not separate from you to be able to perceive it. You as the perceiver, as the being, the viewer, and the viewed object or being out separate from you. There's separation there. And I know one of my motivations for anything that I throw into my talks usually comes from listening to other people's talks on interfaith and me sitting here going, well, yeah, but no, that's maybe partially true, but it's not the whole truth. And so we hear lots about how we need to relax, we need to accept everything. In order to be happy, we need to just accept what is, accept the fact that we are already perfect. Nothing needs to change. And that's nice ability to have, to be able to accept. But if that is all you're doing, accepting, then where's the creative half of your being? However, it is a good idea to accept yourself, I think, as perfect. Doesn't mean you can't change, but at least accept yourself as perfect and then create from that. Whatever you come up with is fantastic. I guess if I have time, I got some wonderful quotes to share. But okay, separation. Where was I? Yeah. And then there's this, oneness. I see oneness as the ultimate receptivity, acceptance of all that is, all that has been, all that will be, as well as all that could be. So that's it's nice, it's wonderful to be able to just drop into that if you're having a bad day, if you're feeling tense, or if you just want to break from everything. Yes, step into that. Let go of everything and just allow yourself to feel it all, to be at it all. But that's not everything there is. Don't forget the creative half. So then there's something, Craig Brann a few weeks ago in his talk about intuition got into a little bit of discussion about, well, intuition ideally is a sort of connection with the divine, with a higher self, with whatever, and you're open to it and it flows and you get this message or feeling or something and you know that it's true, or at least it feels that way. And creation, again, this is a combination of experience and creation, taking in and letting out. How do you, I don't know for sure how you tell, or if it's worth bothering trying to figure out if you are connected with spirit and higher self and letting that flow through you to create, or, because obviously that does happen. People talk about it, artists, athletes, getting in the flow. You connect with whatever that is, that force that's turning the potter's wheel, and you let that flow and creation comes forth and it feels wonderful. But there's obviously also the inner voice that some of us, all of us, have to listen to sometimes, the inner critic, the voice, that's probably not what we would consider intuition or the flow of divine creativity flowing through us. I don't know. I think about my inner voice, and the one thing I know for sure is it is always there and it listens to everything I say. That's, so it's listening, not just talking. So that makes me feel nice that there's always somebody right by me who's listening to everything I say. So, nothing goes to waste. Let's see, what else? Oh, one analogy is a wonderfully useful tool. As both Marilyn and Janet pointed out, the potter's wheel is one analogy for this flow of creation. You might have, I'm sure we've all heard the Om. Om is the sound of creation. So as I was putting this talk together, and watching the potter's wheel spin around, I thought, I think my wheel is kind of old. Some of the bearings are not quite perfect anymore, letting it spin smoothly, but there's just this little bit of noise coming out of it now, and that would be the sound of the potter's wheel is Om. Anyway, I got a kick out of that. Another thing I realized looking at this, the potter's wheel by itself does nothing. It just sits there and spins. This universal creative flow by itself does nothing. It's just there to be tapped into, to be put to use, to be directed, to be formed. And we get to do that. It's a wonderful thing. Let's see. Building blocks. Unfortunately, well, in practice, to be able to create something, usually you have to, we as human beings at least, maybe there's some God who can, presumably something created stuff from nothing at some point or continuously. I guess quantumly speaking, it's continuously happening, nothingness to something and back and forth. But as humans, we do not have the ability to create something from total nothing. All we really do, our creation, is reforming, reshaping reality. We can take atoms of this and atoms of that and throw them together and create some different molecules, but we haven't really come up with creating new atoms, or we can maybe in a nuclear reaction we can change atoms of this to atoms of that, but it's still conservation of energy and all that. You know, E equals mc squared. It's one form or another, and all we can really do so far, that as we know, is just change the shape of it all, change the relationships between the items, between the molecules. What else? The other day, I just reached to the bottom of my t-shirt drawer. I pulled one out that I haven't worn in a while. I usually take it to Blissfest, but Blissfest didn't happen this year. It's a t-shirt with a quote from Thich Nhat Hanh, and it says, "We are here to awaken from the illusion of our separateness." And that always rankled me, because I have this, my view is that, hey, if you didn't want separateness, what did you come here for, people? You know, if you wanted to awaken from the illusion of separateness, then, I don't know, maybe just let yourself die, and I presume it would be a lot easier to awaken from separateness if you're not on planet Earth in a body. However, I think there's great value to being here. So my variation on that quote would be more like, we are here to exercise and play with our ability to be separate. Because you have to be separate to be able to create something, or to perceive others' creations, or to perceive your own creations. It takes separateness. It's cool. So we are here to exercise and play with our ability to be separate. Or, slight variation on that, we are here to play and learn in our illusory sandbox of separateness. We are here to play and learn in our illusory sandbox of separateness. Yeah, so we create the separateness so we can play, so we can create, so we can enjoy others' creations and co-create. Yeah, co-creation, that's a whole different level of what I'm talking about here. Imagine a potter's wheel, and maybe I'll start the second video now. Let's see here, screen share. Where is this? This one. Okay, I guess, hang on, let's start this thing going. Now this is cool. This gets into what I was starting to mention before, building blocks. If you want to create something, it takes the right building blocks to make it, whether it's a single lump of one color of clay, as the first video was showing, or this one gets into, as you can see, multiple colors of clay. One can create only from what one has to create with. Interesting research some years ago, kittens raised from birth in a room that did not have any vertical lines. They had some sort of a cylindrical space that they were raised in. There was no vertical lines visible to those kittens. And their neurons, their eyes, optic nerve, whatever, all that machinery is in there, did not develop the ability to perceive vertical lines. So as they got older, they put it in a normal room. They kept running into the legs of chairs because they did not see them. They did not exist in their reality because they lacked the building block that was required to be able to perceive vertical lines. And the first video I showed had a single color of clay. There was no way that that pot, the bowl that was created in that first video, could end up with multiple colors. This person is creating something with multiple colors. So he had to start with different lumps of clay. Yeah. What else? Play. Oh yes, play. Again, this was mentioned by Janet, certainly, and, well, play and combined with coming home to ourselves, coming home to who we are, our reason for being here, whatever that is. It may change over time, but there's something we're here to be doing, something here to be creating and experiencing. But again, what's experience if it's not tied to creation somehow? It is. You're creating the experience. Oh, collaboration. That's where we're going with this. Collaboration and co-creation. In a few minutes, this will switch over to something that involves co-creation, but it's fun to watch this in its single creator process. Imagine a potter's wheel, probably a much bigger potter's wheel than this, and it's got to be one lump of clay. If you ever try to use a potter's wheel without having something centered in the middle of the wheel, it doesn't work. It just goes nowhere. It breaks or flies off the edge. Has to be centered. So if you want to have something that multiple creators can work on simultaneously, it's going to have to be a single hunk of clay, really big, on a huge potter's wheel. So imagine just the humanity on this planet, 8 billion pairs of hands trying to create some single thing. And you wonder, it's amazing that civilization exists and has grown as well as it has. Obviously, it's had its major glitches continuously, sometimes more, sometimes less. But I mean, too many cooks spoil the stew, right? 8 billion potters on a single potter's wheel. It's going to be really messy. But that's what we're doing. That's what we're on this planet trying to do. Okay, I promised you some quotes. I'm going to start off with the one that could have just summed up this entire talk, but if I gave it at the beginning, I wouldn't have had to say anything. This is from somebody named Anton Saint Martin from Divine Living, The Essential Guide to Your True Destiny. The quote is, "You are one thing only. You are a divine being, an all-powerful creator. You are a deity in jeans and a t-shirt, and within you dwells the infinite wisdom of the ages and the sacred creative force of all that is, and will be, and ever was." I love the way this video covers, I just took excerpts of it, but it covers the entire process from the lump of clay to the final enjoyment of the creation. Yeah. So I hope you found that as enjoyable as I did. Let's see, time-wise. Oh my goodness, we went over. Okay, I got to give you one or two more quotes. Pablo Picasso. "What does it mean for a painter to paint in the manner of so-and-so or to actually imitate someone else? What's wrong with that? On the contrary, it's a good idea. You should constantly try to paint like someone else. But the thing is, you can't. You would like to, you try, but it turns out to be a botch. And it's at the very moment you make a botch of it that you're yourself." Research has shown the greatest creators over time, they're just prolific. Create. And they also create more bad stuff than normal people. So it's like, go ahead, make batches of things, but just keep making. It'll be good. All right, I think with that, I should shut up and turn it over to open mic. Thank you so much.